across to the biggest banker in the country, SBI Chief CS Shetty, speaking with Ritu on what the budget does for the banking sector, for credit offtake and perhaps for deposit mobilization.
You know, in terms of the budget and what it has done, how is your overall reading as to what it will do for economic growth and, more importantly, credit growth for banks?
Thanks, Ritu, for having me on your show. It's a very good budget. My simple assessment is I think it ticks a lot of boxes, both in terms of, as you mentioned, growth, economic growth as well as credit growth, which are both interlinked anyway. In terms of investment, in terms of MSMEs, agriculture. Yeah. I think most of these areas are well covered in the budget. But a few things I definitely would like to draw your attention. One is on the macros. The numbers seem to be conservative. If you see nominal GDP of 10.1, which they are estimating, which means that the real GDP is estimated at 6%. I'm sure it will be much more than that. Okay. And the tax buoyancy is at 1.1, which is in tune with what has been achieved. Yeah. So the macro numbers seem to be conservative. Okay. And as far as Capex is concerned, again, something what I've been hearing. A 10% increase. But if you really see, we were just looking at the budget numbers. It's not only about 11.2 lakh crores, which they mentioned. If you take the grants which are given to the states for capital purposes, and the capital investment with the public sector, our estimate is the total Capex would amount to 19.8 lakh crores. What would something like 19.8 lakh crores in terms of Capex do for banks in terms of credit boost? No, it would. See, the usual credit growth is that if you're assuming, even on a conservative basis, 10% nominal GDP, you add 4 to 5% to that credit growth. So the credit growth is not only coming from the infra, it definitely would come from the KCC, for example, with the limit has been enhanced. To 5 lakh. 5 lakh with under the subvention scheme, which means that a lot of farmers who were eligible otherwise were not taking these loans because subvention was not available. Now the limit being increased would definitely be a positive. Sure. And the MSME also, while we witnessed a good credit growth in the last 2 years, is almost 14 to 15% across the banking system. A couple of things what we were witnessing is that while the limits, Capex, the plant and machinery limits were revised a few years ago, still people were thinking that to achieve certain growth rate, the limits had to be revised. In this budget, they have revised 2.5 times on the plant and machinery investment, and also on the revenue side also is 2 times. So in all, I think credit growth looks to be positive for the banking industry.
You know, lots of things that you mentioned, sir, but let me get to some of the specifics. You said credit growth will be assuming a nominal GDP growth rate of 10% plus 4% for the industry. So assuming this 10.14% for SBI, for FY26, what kind of credit growth do you anticipate, keeping everything in mind that you just talked about?
You have to wait for a week when we come with the results. Obviously, I can't give. If the nominal GDP is there at 10%, SBI consistently have been growing 4 to 5% over the GDP.
So we'll wait till next week for the number. But the big boost really has come in that for salary up to 12 lakh rupees, no income tax, net income tax payable. What will that do as far as retail credit growth is concerned? More money in the hands of people, does it necessarily mean they may be more open to borrowing?
Before we go to the credit growth, I think we should look at the deposits, which we have been talking, the banking system is struggling to get the deposits. Our estimate is this definitely will boost the savings because there's a, surplus in the hands of people. One is the direct benefit to the deposits. Part of that probably will go to the investments also. There's another element on the TDS for the senior citizen from 50,000
to 1 lakh.
The senior citizen deposit constitutes 20% of the banking system deposits. And the TDS also is one of the reasons why some of the senior citizens don't want to keep in the bank. And that would add definitely to the banking deposit. So a combination of increased tax exemption as well as in the TDS exemption limit increased add to the deposits. Then on the credit side, obviously most of the personal credit is determined by the net monthly income to EMI to NMI.
Yeah.
How much EMI
of your income you're paying as
EMI.
EMI.
So obviously, when the denominator increases, the scope for
higher EMI.
EMI is there, and that would that would definitely boost the consumption. In fact, the consumption, our economic research department tells that the consumption multiplier is 3 times.
Okay.
Which it is not about 12 lakhs contributing to equivalent amount or net savings or net surplus contributing to the consumption. The net surplus will have 3 times leading to the consumption. So this consumption multiplier is also very important to determine.
So could you put some numbers to what this will mean for SBI in terms of deposit boost and of course credit boost?
So we assume that the credit boost, as I said, I think is a combination of everything what is going to happen and which crystallizes into the GDP growth rate and adds to the credit growth rate. The deposits, I think broadly most of the banks will move to the double deposit growth rate. They're already there. I can't put a figure to that, but obviously it's a positive to the deposit mobilization.
The other big focus area of this budget has been MSMEs, whether that is the reclassification of MSMEs, so bringing more of them into the fold, and also enhancement of the guarantee cover, which has been doubled to 10 crore rupees.
Yes.
To put that together, how much additional credit do you think it would unlock? How many more customers will you now be able to serve?
So one is the credit guarantee definitely would help in terms of moving from a collateralized lending to a cash flow based lending backed by the guarantee. Today, I think most of the banks are moving towards, you have a lot of information on the MSME, you have GST data, you have income tax data, but still the focus on the collateral is there.
Yeah.
Probably, this increased limit for the guarantee combined with the cash flow assessment which is available will increase the flow of credit to MSMEs. If we assume that the growth rate is 15%, we can definitely add 3 to 4 percentage points to this growth rate.
Okay, and the number of SMEs that will increasingly become eligible because of the reclassification?
So, in terms of the universe of MSMEs, when I look at our SBI portfolio, out of 1.6 million MSMEs whom we serve, 90% are micro enterprises. Correct. And some of the medium enterprises today are not classified as SME category. They are directly going to the corporate segment.
I see.
So some of them probably will join the medium, and some of the small will now become micro.
Okay.
Which means that the universe gets readjusted, and some of the large corporates, which we are classifying as mid and large corporate, will come into medium enterprises.
Okay, you mentioned the Kisan credit card enhanced limit, but what it also comes with is the credit card with a 5 lakh limit for micro enterprises. How significant is that move going to be for the segment?
It is important in the sense that most of the working capital limits given by the banks are required to be renewed every 12 months.
Yeah.
So, but if you have a credit card with a longer eligibility or validity of the credit card, this problem of, operational problem of coming to the bank every year, or banks doing every year, I think this was a long time ago recommended, and I'm happy that this has become realized.